And welcome to The Issues. I'm Othor Cain in for Bishop Ronnie Crudup tonight, who's traveling in Africa. Welcome aboard. We've got a great broadcast lined up for you. First up is Hinds County Sheriff Tyrone Lewis, and a little later in the broadcast, we'll speak with representatives from United Healthcare Community Plan here in Mississippi. First, though, we turn our attention to Sheriff Tyrone Lewis. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. I was glad to be back again.
Thank you for being here. And Sheriff, I want to get right into an operation that you guys provided a week or so ago in the city of Jackson, and you're going to take this operation throughout the county. You call it Operation T-Bone. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, this is, as a matter of fact, Arthur, we're doing exactly what we committed to the citizens of Hinds County, that we were going to be very aggressive on crime, as well as be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, and be very transparent in doing it. Now that we've been in office a little bit over 11 months now, we're able to follow a roadmap that we laid out, been able to get out in the neighborhood and meet with residents and communities and develop a plan to go out and address crime the way we said we would. And we came up with an operation this past weekend. It's called Operation T-Bone. The acronym stands for Taking Our Neighborhoods Back, where we plan to address crime very aggressively, meet with the residents of the neighborhoods, the businesses of those communities, as well as all the schools and churches. Bring everybody to the table, find out what their concerns are, address them, and hopefully we can give that neighborhood back to them in a way that they can maintain it.
All right, very good. And before we get into the specifics of the outcome of your first operation, let's talk a little bit about how you go about selecting the neighborhoods.
Well, we looked at crime stats ordinarily. We were able to ascertain crime stats around the city of Jackson, as well as around Hinds County, with the help of some other entities. And we had to prioritize what area that we would tackle first, in particular going into the holiday season. This particular area that we targeted has been infested with all types of crimes, to include prostitutions, drug activity, sex offenders, you name it, is in this particular neighborhood. So we made it a priority that when going to a neighborhood that used to be a thriving neighborhood, and try to take it over and give it back to this particular community. So this was stuck out like a sore thumb, and that's why they got the first operation.
And what about manpower? Are you having to call in extra help? Are you having to pay overtime? Talk to me about manpower.
Well, you know, the other thing that we promised when we was campaigning is that we were going to develop good relationships as well as good partnerships. And we were able to do that right away. So without affecting the day-to-day operations of the Hinds County Sheriff Department or entities that came in and helped us, we pooled our resources. Okay. And we had the resources of the Attorney General's office, the Hinds County Sheriff Reserve Unit, which is about 88 men strong, as well as the ATF unit, as well as the U.S. Marshals. And we pooled all these resources together where it wouldn't affect anybody's day-to-day operation when it comes to manpower or overtime when it comes to the budget.
All right, very good. So you would consider your first operation a big success? We
do. We are very pleased with the outcome of the first week of that particular operation. We had slated a time slot for it to last about 2 weeks. The first week went extremely well. Even after we put the criminal element on notice that we would be out, apparently they didn't take heed to it. So we thank them for helping us make it a success as well.
Unwrap that just a little bit in terms of putting the criminal element on notice.
Well, we did not want to make it a surprise to anybody. We wanted the criminal element to know, as well as the law-abiding citizens to know that we are going to be very aggressive on crime. We do have some law-abiding citizens in this county that want a quality of life that they earned and deserved, and we wanted the criminal element to know that we're going to reverse the situation on them to where the law-abiding people have been held, it felt like they've been held hostage for so many years. We want the criminal element to know that we're going to reverse it and let them see how it feels.
All right, very good. We've got to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we'll get into specifics of Operation T-Bone, and we'll find out about a neighborhood that they're coming near you. We're back in just a moment. Stay with us. and welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Othor Cain. Just in case you're just now joining us, Hinds County Sheriff Tyrone Lewis is our guest tonight. And Sheriff Lewis, let's get into the specifics of this. 2 days that you and your team were out in this particular neighborhood, canvassing stores, businesses, houses, and streets. You actually netted, you walked away with a lot of stuff, even with putting the criminal element on alert. Let's talk about some specific numbers. You made 76 arrests?
76 arrests, and what was surprising to us also, Othor, you would think when we put them on notice that we were or was coming into this particular area that the criminal element would go into hibernation. Apparently some of them did because we had some intel or did some assessments as to who would be in this particular area keeping up or doing criminal activity. So some of those we did go into hibernation, but there are some that did not take heed to the message. And decided that they were not going to hibernation and continue to do the activity that they're accustomed to doing in this particular area.
What was the common denominator over the course of those 2 days? What did you find that was most prevalent?
What we found most prevalent in this particular area was the drug activity, as well as with open area drug sales, as well as prostitution, open prostitutions in this particular area. You find the prostitutes were just openly walk the streets and flag down cars and actually going into the neighborhoods themselves, flagging down cars and going door to door to individuals' homes. So those were the two elephants in the room in this particular area, along with the gunshots and the firing of the firearms at night.
All right, and we got calls into this newsroom that people in that neighborhood, they actually felt as if they were prisoners in their own home, afraid to come out, and wanting their kids to be in by dark. Is it the goal of your department to eradicate that so people can feel safe about where they live?
That is our goal, not only for this community, but for the entire Hinds County. What we decided to do before going into this neighborhood or any neighborhood, we're going to do an assessment ourselves. We have a inmate cleanup crew, and we'll send that inmate cleanup crew to come in after we do our assessment. Then we get together with the residents to call a town hall meeting and to actually let them voice their concerns, along with us voicing the issues that we found during our assessment. So it's a lot of entities and a lot of planning that goes into putting these things together. The town hall meeting turned out great for us. We was able to get some additional information to add to the assessment that we did. And we think that we'll be able to give this community some relief so they can sustain themselves, and not along with the businesses in that particular area, the schools, as well as the churches and the other businesses that make up this particular area. It turns out to be a little city within itself.
Is this a systematic problem of a greater sort, or do you think that this is just indicative of this particular neighborhood?
Well, it's a widespread epidemic around the county where you have what we call the broken window theory, where you once have thriving neighborhoods that were functional with a neighborhood associations, active neighborhood association that would meet on a regular basis. And it's a typical neighborhood where individuals age and they get tired, or where they die out, the prominent ones die out, and they leave the property to the loved ones that neglect to take care of it. And it's the old saying, if you break a window and don't fix it, somebody comes by and break another one, and it becomes a decaying factor. And the criminal elements start to move in to think that no one cares anymore. So we would like to come in and help them clean it up, to help them sustain it again.
I don't think that the timing for this could be any better as we move closer towards the holiday season. I think this gives folk an opportunity to be alert and to brace themselves. Now, this was a neighborhood in Jackson, but you have the entire county to cover. How do you, A, allocate resources, and B, prioritize where you go next?
Well, we're going to keep the same format since this was a successful operation. This time, we think we can keep the same format, maybe to add some additional entities, like the different cities that we're going to be in, to utilize their manpower from their police forces as well. We're looking at prioritizing the other areas. We're going to do some areas in incorporated areas as well as the rural areas. Our next function probably will be in the Presidential Hills area, and we don't mind telling them. Some of them we're not going to broadcast because we want to actually catch the individuals other than putting them on notice. So we're looking at President Hills next, maybe Edwards or Utica after that, going into the rural area, then move back into the incorporated areas.
You know, and I saw pictures. So you made drug arrests, you made firearm arrests, you confiscated firearms, and you netted a significant amount of cash. Talk a little bit about that.
It was our goal after we did our research to focus on all the things that came out of our assessment. We know that there was a large number of weapons in this particular area, and that's why you hear the gunshots at night. And we were able to take about 25 firearms off the street in those particular 2 days. And we was able to net about 46 drug arrests, as well as collect almost $14,000 in cash from those drug sales. What we're going to be able to do with that particular cash is, after it's cleared through the court system, that cash goes back to the sheriff department, and it can help us supplement our training as well as our equipment in our budget. So it turned out to be pretty good. There was 13 DUI arrests through our DUI checkpoints, as well as 51 misdemeanor arrests, and those come from traffic citations and wanted individuals that have not paid fines in the past, as well as your more stiffer penalties such as your felonies. So we got a chance to go back and talk with some of the residents in that particular area. They're very gracious and grateful. We want to say that they made comments that it was the first weekend in a long time that they was able to sleep and get some rest without hearing gunshots in the middle of the night. So we're pretty pleased about the success of that.
All right, very good. And the next one is in 2 weeks?
The next one's going to be in 2 weeks, and after that, we probably will notify you after we do the next couple of operations. We want the people to be assured and rest assured that we will be coming to a neighborhood near them soon.
Very so. Sheriff Lewis, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. We certainly do. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us. We appreciate that. Listen, we've got to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, coming up in this next legislative session, healthcare will be a major topic. We've got someone here from the United Healthcare Community Plan of Mississippi to talk to us a little bit about what they are doing across the state. Stay with us. Back in a moment. And welcome back to the broadcast. Listen now, prior to the break, we talked to you a little bit about United Healthcare and about the upcoming legislative agenda. We're going to bring that information to you in a later broadcast, because in addition to healthcare, education will be a primary focus as well. And we'll galvanize those people and get them here, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But we wanted to bring Sheriff Lewis back with us to continue our conversation about what's happening within the Hinds County Sheriff's Department. And Sheriff, there's been a lot of talk about the Raymond Detention Center, and I know that you've had your fair share of issues going on there, and you're working extremely hard to bring that facility, I guess, up to modern times and into modern standards, if you will. Tell us where you are with that.
Well, right now we just had a settlement with the insurance company on the Part C, which is the pod that was destroyed by the inmates. They came up with a pretty good amount of settlement, but the difference is they only settled for rebuilding it the way that it was. There's some concerns about that, because if you rebuild it the way it was, then you have the same issues with the maintenance of the doors, the locks, and the drains of the system. So what the board is going to do is bring in some experts to look at redesigning Part C. And hopefully they can do it with the money that's been allocated from the insurance company, where we can use some modern technology and not a whole lot of manpower to operate that particular unit. And if it is successful in the redesigning of that particular pod, then hopefully we can look at redesigning the other two pods to make it, number one, safe for the employees as well as the inmates, as well as to save the taxpayers some money rather than rebuilding a new structure.
Here's what I don't get. Now, I recognize Part C was destroyed in the riot, but there's money already there, and plus you're getting this insurance settlement. Why not just do it all the way, redo it all the way and not build it just as it was, because quite frankly, the way it is and the way it exists now, it's quite easy for them to destroy it again. Why put yourself through the same exact thing?
Well, that's what the insurance company wanted us to do. But there is some money set aside. Prior to the riot, there was $1.3 million set aside to refurbish or what they call retrofit some of the doors. Well, that's an ugly word because they've been retrofitting ever since that place has been in existence. What we want to do is get somebody to come in that has a track record rehabbing and building jails to come in and say and do an assessment to say this jail can be rebuilt or it can't be rebuilt. And if it can be rebuilt or refurbished, what would be the lifespan of the rehabbing the jail? If it's less than 5 years, then we need to look at building a new structure. But that's yet to be determined. So we haven't ruled that out of moving forward, but we have to have the proper assessment to say that we can use this money to rehab this jail. We hadn't got that answer yet.
In my mind, the structure was almost already antiquated when it was first built. It just seems like it was built wrong. Not that I'm a jail expert or anything, but, just with my, limited knowledge, it just seems like you could walk through there and I could break out of it,
Well, you could. And there's nothing with the other two pods still up and running that's stopping those two pods from erupting like Pod C. We did our history and did our homework, and when we took office, and we found out that there was issues with this facility since its inception, since the day that it opened. Why it took this long to bring out all the deficiencies, I don't know. But again, that goes back to we said we was going to be transparent and open the doors so we can get the attention to try to move forward to fix the facility or rebuild the facility in the manner that it should be. Operational and functional for housing inmates.
Okay. Let's talk about a little bit what happens on the inside of the detention center, because quite frankly, there are folk who are of the mindset that there's a criminal element within folk that are on your staff inside of the detention center. Do you recognize that?
We're not immune from any other entity from having bad apples. And we're not going to point fingers or say we inherit anything. It's our baby now. But we put some structure and some protocol in place to help us define some of the issues that was dealing with personnel in that particular building. And we do have some bad apples there that are able to be compromised. And that's because of the hiring practice that was taking place in the past. We changed our hiring practices. We were able to also utilize our budget enough to get better pay for the detention officers, and hopefully we can recruit better personnel through increasing the salary and changing our hiring practices. That's a job that's not for everybody. It takes a special person who works in correction. It takes a special person who works in law enforcement. It's not for everybody. You can't be a person that can be compromised. And we do have people that we are doing investigations on. We do have people that we have arrested for bringing in contraband that was able to be compromised from the families of the inmates as well as the inmates themselves. We had individuals that were compromised to bring in cell phones for $500 as well as chargers. So they were compromising themselves, but also putting themselves, the inmates and other employees that were following the procedures in jeopardy. So we have a system in place where we are monitoring and working aggressively to get that bad element out of that system.
So, but the hiring practices will not alleviate what's already there, right? Hiring new people is not going to get rid of who's already there.
No, we have to have ongoing investigations when we hear reports of individuals that are being compromised or doing illegal things in that facility to maneuver them out of the system through our internal affairs division.
All right, very good. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about where you move forward, or how you move forward with what's happening at the detention center, and then some of your other goals in terms of next steps for you. We'll take a quick break. There's more on the other side. Stay with us. And welcome back to the broadcast. Let's get right back into this, Sheriff Lewis. Um, you inherited this problem at the Raymond Detention Center, and you're working aggressively to fix that. And I think that people applaud you for all the things that you've done thus far. And I think that people are excited to see you so hands-on and right there on the front line. Why is that a major priority for you?
Well, we have to get it under control. If not, then it could be devastating to the taxpayers as well as to the employees of Hinds County. It's been a system that's been broke for so long, and we have to fix it. So it's a priority to us to go in and fix it. And some other things beside increasing the hiring practices, we were lacking on training in those areas of detention. So, excuse me. We immediately developed a partnership with the Rankin County Sheriff Office, who have facilitators that can train individuals in detention. And we just graduated a class yesterday of 10 individuals that work in correction facilities. They are required by state law to have 96 hours of certification training. Since we have been in office in January, we have sent 3 classes through that training. So every time and we seem to be up to par now, that they get the proper training, and as well as we look for proper and good employees to work in that facility. So it's a dangerous situation if we don't have the proper training and the proper personnel in those facilities. And we have 3 facilities, and each one of them have to operate accordingly.
You know, you've had some public fights or public displays in terms of getting things done. You were very successful in maintaining your budget when there were supervisors who wanted to really cut your budget. But you took a stand and said, this is what I need, and you galvanized community support. Talk a little bit about that success.
Well, it's a matter of public safety, and that's a matter of building bridges and educating on the need for public safety. We were able to develop that partnership with the community and the clergy, as well as some businesses, to get them to understand that we could not afford a budget cut in law enforcement or the sheriff's department. It would hamper us maintaining that facility. It would hamper us maintaining the manpower on the streets to patrol, and we were able to get that across to the public, who helped us get it across to some of the board members who were not familiar or educated on the need or the necessity for good law enforcement.
Do you find this job is more relational than you thought before you took it on?
It's more relational and more political than I anticipated. I am a bona fide law enforcement officer, and I can do that hands down and in my sleep. What I have to juggle is the political fallout and the political aspect of it. We're learning to play that game real fast so we can move forward with fighting crime the way we laid out our platform to do.
All right, very good. Sheriff Lewis, thank you, man. Thank you for being here.
We appreciate it. We look forward to coming back, keeping the public updated and informed on how the Sheriff's Department is being good stewards of their taxpayers' dollars.
Appreciate that. And listen, that's all the time that we have for today's broadcast. Bishop Cruder will be back in this seat on next week, and I'm certain he'll give you a recap of his experiences in Africa. As he would say, this is the issues, and we leave no stone unturned. I'm Othor Cain, and I'll talk to you again.